Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at fueling your starship, both at a starport and in the wilderness. Primarily wilderness refueling. It's one of the neater aspects of Traveler. It's one of the things that really caught my imagination when I first read the rule set. I haven't really encountered this anywhere else in science fiction. I'm sure there's something else that I just haven't run across it. But I like the idea of wilderness refueling. So we're going to take a look at that and take a look at what high guard means and stuff like that today. Also want to just remind, I'm still doing the subscription drive. It's going very well. I want to get over that magical 1,000, so please subscribe if you've been on the fence. Also running a Patreon. I've announced recently some rewards for the Patreon, which will include for anybody who wants it, but primarily geared toward AD&D players, an AD&D dungeon written by me that it will be released serialized, so it'll be released in pieces. And for Traveler fans, a planet that is already on the Traveler map and already existent in Traveler universe. I'm not claiming any ownership. I'm just going to be putting out some of the notes that I created when I ran and developed that planet for my campaign. So those are a couple of the rewards I'm looking to do for the Patreon. I haven't discerned, or I'm not differentiating between different levels right now. So if you can help out with the Patreon, it'd be great. That I'd be looking to have either or both of those out sometime in very late May or early June. And I don't know if it'll be a D&D offering one month and a Traveler the next, or one of each per month. I don't know. That's going to depend on how much work they both end up being. So I'm going to have to see on that. So more information to follow as it gets closer, and I will announce when either one is dropping for the Patreon page. So that's all I've got. That's the end of the commercial. Today we're going to take a look at refueling your starship in Traveler on page 121. Wilderness refueling. One of my favorite things about Traveler. Just showing a picture of it's the Traveler, the customizable card game. This is just a playmat that they sell for it. I'm not advertising for them. I think it's a great picture. I thought you'd rather look at that than at me. So Empress Morava is sitting here, and we get to look at that while we talk about starships. So basically, the starships in Traveler run off liquid hydrogen. And you have to get your liquid hydrogen from somewhere. The one way you can get it is to go to a starport and buy fuel. You can buy fuel in two different ways, and they literally just pump it into your ship. And you can buy refined fuel, which will run you roughly 500 credits per ton of fuel. And that is just a rule of thumb. It can be higher or lower depending on your campaign or where your starship is refueling. Or you can have unrefined fuel, which runs roughly 100 credits a ton. And you're going, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't I just buy the unrefined fuel? That's way cheaper. Well, unrefined fuel increases missed jumps, damages your engines, both your normal drive and your jump drive. It can cause all kinds of problems. Generally, when I'm running Traveler in the old days, back when I was brand new to playing and I was a player in my GM's campaign, we used to run on unrefined fuel all the time. The rules were harsh on it, but not horribly harsh. Now they're really bad. Don't use unrefined fuel. If you get unrefined fuel, and we're going to go into where you get it other than at the starport, you want a fuel treatment plant, also called a purification plant, where it can take out all the garbage out of it and give you good liquid nitrogen to fuel your ship's drives with. The ship's drives, the fuel, they're everything. The ship doesn't run without it. So to me, it's important to put decent fuel in the ship to get it going. So now we've talked about how you would get it at a starport. Kind of boring. It's expensive too, 500 tons per. If you need 20 tons, that's a lot of coin. So it would say 2,000 credits to get this guy going, or 20,000. It's a lot of coin. So you want to be careful about that because that can eat into your profits. So now you go, well, where do I get it if I don't want to pay for it? Well, there's a couple of different ways. My favorite is you go to wilderness refueling at a gas giant. Gas giants, you can take your ship down into the highest levels of the gas giant, and while being buffeted by winds and static created by your ship's passage and gases in the cloud itself, you open up your fuel scoops, suck in the hydrogen from the planet, put it through your fuel treatment plant, and bam, in a few hours, your ship's refueled, you're ready to go. Off you go. And a quick aside, that's where the high guard phrase comes from. This is the original High Guard from 1980. This was an expansion for Traveler for the Navy specifically. But High Guard refers to those ships that stay out of the atmosphere while their mate is down in the atmosphere and they guard against enemy attack. They mount the High Guard. The interesting thing about that is if you're a singleton, I'm a scout ship and I need to wilderness refuel, so I zoom into the atmosphere of the planet. My sensors are tremendously degraded while I'm down there, and I'm having no real communications outside of the gas giant, or if I happen to be with another ship that's refueling at the same time, I really can't talk to them. So there are a lot of problems with it. Wilderness refueling on a gas giant can also be a lurking point for pirates. They know that starships will come here. They can catch them on sensors while they lie doggo or quiet. And when you go into the atmosphere, they can see where you went in, project your course to come out, and be ready to jump you before your sensors have even registered their presence. So wilderness refueling is not without its risks. That is the chief risk, of course, or an enemy vessel if you're a military fleet or mercenary group and an enemy vessel is in the area. You want some High Guard. So if you are, say, a mercenary group, you want a couple of parasite vehicles that will be flown with your main ship, and you want to put them out on High Guard to guard against you being jumped when you come back up out of the planet's atmosphere. The planet itself can be a hazard. The high winds and the wind shear, the gases, potential for just being struck by static lightning, things like that, can all create problems for the travelers. You as the GM can handle this however you want, and I've handled it in the same campaign as quick and as a main thing. So in other words, my main idea for the night is not to bog them down with wilderness refueling. I want to get them to the planet, but they want to refuel first. I'm going to throw a few dice, see if anything interesting happens while they're refueling, but by and large, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to let them wilderness refuel, kind of hand wave the whole thing and say, okay, 6 hours later, you're done, on your way. Now we get to the adventure. Other times, I'm going to make it where the dice dictate. They may want to get to the planet, but the dice dictate that a mishap happened while you're in the gas giant, and now we've got a problem we've got to fix. Maybe there's damage to one of your fuel scoops. Maybe the refining plant is down. Any number of things that can be happening. So now you've got to resolve that before you can continue on. And then the third way, of course, is to purposely have your adventure taking place when they go to wilderness refuel. Maybe the bad guy is lurking out there and I can do some space combat. Maybe they're going to be boarded as soon as they come up out of the gas giant. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. So wilderness refueling for me is one of the great aspects of Traveler. It offers so many role-playing opportunities for the crew aboard the ship, how they interact, how they go about the wilderness refueling, and so many things that I as a GM can throw in their path to inhibit their success. So I can get my fuel from a gas giant. I can also get it from liquid water. Lots of hydrogen and water, as we all know. So you just set your ship down on or above a world's ocean, extend your little hoses for your fuel scoops, dip it into the water, and go ahead and suck it up. Now, about starships going underwater. In my Traveler universe, they can, but only so deep. Each of my ships, by default, are basically able to handle up to about 2 atmospheres of pressure. And that's because, and in some cases, I'm going to let starships even be a little stronger. They're going to be going and landing on planets, especially scout ships, that have higher density atmospheres, so more atmospheric pressure. For me, if every starship was only made for 1 atmosphere of pressure, then they'd be crushed very quickly. Well, as you go underwater, the water itself acts as basically, it's not atmospheric pressure, but for purpose of this demonstration, it's the same thing. The deeper I go, the more the water is trying to crush me. I will allow a starship to go, depending on the gravity and the atmospheric pressure of the world, I'll allow it to go underwater, but I'll calculate it beforehand how far underwater it can go. They can't just dive into an ocean and treat the ship like a submarine. The ship is okay underwater in my universe. It's airtight, of course, so it's going to be watertight, but the water itself might be corrosive. There could be massive predators in there, thinking, the Meg in the world's oceans that may or may not think of your ship as a snack. It's just not the best thing to do to go underwater, but certainly hovering above water and skimming, to take the water up and refine it to fuel, absolutely worth it. Water, by the way, does need to be refined. It is unrefined fuel when it's brought aboard. So now the other way that you can commonly refuel for free is to find a local comet or any kind of icy body, whether it's an icy asteroid for whatever reason, ice on a moon, whatever. Now you can go to that body and then have your fuel scoops basically melt their way into the icy body, melt portions of that body into water, pull the water out as unrefined fuel, refine it through your power plant, and off you go. So you can actually kind of camp on a comet and refuel that way. The trick to this is you better know where that comet is. Comets are not horribly large targets, and even with good sensors on active, you may have a problem finding a comet. So it's not an ideal place, but if you know the comet's there and you're worried about going to the gas giant, comet refueling can definitely be an alternative. So this is kind of a shorter video for me, simply because there's not a ton to say other than what fun wilderness refueling is in Traveler. And as I said, I don't remember seeing an analog to this in other science fiction. If there's something that you read over the years and they say, oh yeah, they use wilderness refueling, I'd be interested. Please put it in the comments below. If you have ways that you deal with wilderness refueling in your game, I'd be very interested in seeing it. Is it something merchants avoid like the plague in your campaign? Is it something scouts kind of have to do to save money, even though they could land at the scout base and get refueling, and they're expected to go ahead and wilderness refuel and then come into the base? However you do it in your campaign, that's great. I'd love to hear some feedback about how you handle it. Any fun encounters you've had in wilderness refueling, also a good one. So that's all I've got to say. So your fledgling travelers are going to refuel their starship for free. Know that there are pros and cons to doing it that way. That's really all I've got to say on the topic today. Thanks for watching. Please remember that I'm doing the membership drive, or the subscription drive. I'm also doing the Patreon drive, so please take a look at both. I have Patreon rewards coming up. They'll be up by the end of the month of May or early June. This will be 2022, by the way. If you have any questions or comments, please put them. Polite criticisms, I'm always interested. And that's all I've got today from page 121. Thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.